I'm happy to be here with Lilly, and we're here today to follow up with some of the stories that she has about being on the German Village Commission. Anne?
One of the things that came to mind was a rather important situation. As we all know, Frank Fetch and our founding fathers decided that this was a residential community and that the businesses would be spread out through the village as they had always been. And sometimes that presented interesting challenges to the commission. And one of the biggest ones came in the mid-70s when the Franklin County Courthouse, the Hall of Justice, the new one and the expansion, moved across the street and opened. And what we discovered and found at that point was that people wanted to purchase residents on the north end of 3rd Street and turn them into offices. And of course, we wanted to keep residential structures as residential structures, and commercial ones certainly could be commercial. So when they would come to the commission, we would not approve or recommend approval of the variance. Then we found that people were buying them anyway, saying they lived in them, using the address for their home address and their voting address, and called it a home occupation. So this was not setting very well with any of us, and somebody then along the way, and I have no idea who that was, decided that maybe they should rezone 3rd Street from Livingston, I think it was to Frankfurt. Well, actually it would be from Blinkner to Frankfurt because Livingston to Blinkner is already commercial, but they should rezone that to be commercial.
And Frankfurt would take you down to where Maximo's is that?
Yeah, I think so, right,
Okay.
Yes it would. It may have not been quite that far. It may have been a little bit north of that. I don't really remember. But again, the commission did not recommend approval, so it went to city council, and the village was up in arms. We filled council chambers in opposition to the rezoning. And so this was, I think, a real turning point in a lot of things. I think it may have been part of the impetus for the Heritage America, that symposium that we did in '86, I think it was, because trying to see what other communities, historic preservation communities, were doing about the residential commercial balance. Now that sounds familiar still today. We're still talking about the balance. So they were interesting times.
And how did the zoning hearing come out in front of city
They
council?
denied it. They denied the rezoning, which delighted all of us, of course. And thinking about that, then I remembered that we used to have a city council person on the German Village Commission. The one that is now the designee for council, I think is the way it's listed, used to be a city council person. We had Dan Schedinger, John Maloney, Cindy Cecil Lazarus, and Dorothy Teeter, and maybe one more, I'm not sure. We used to have a chair that was designated for German Village in the city council on the floor in the chambers. And we pretty much had that filled every Monday night, either with a commission person or a society person. So communication with the city was, of course, different, but all communication's different today, so yeah. But those are the things, I mean, I just felt that it was such an important event, and I don't know whether anybody else has mentioned it or not. I'm sure that people have talked about the Heritage America Symposium.
I wonder if you could talk about that for a minute.
This was, we invited, I feel Connie Swain's a better one for this one. Connie was the chair of this, and there was a whole committee, and we invited a group of all the historic preservation areas we could think of were invited. We had 3 consultants, historic preservation consultants. They came in and evaluated, looked at our situation, felt we were ahead of the curve, but the recommendations that they made to us were 3. One was that we should do a written guidelines book, which we did. 2, we should hire a historic preservation officer, which we did. And 3, we should get out and walk and enjoy the village, enjoy our neighbors and our neighborhood.
And I remember that you said before that you were instrumental in creating many of the guidelines.
Yes, right. Connie again was the chair of that, and Nancy Ritchie and Jeff Darby and Judy Williams did much of did all of the writing actually. But yeah, they were interesting times. Yeah, right. Yeah. When I served on the commission, we had no written guidelines, no historic preservation officer from the society. I think there was one person downtown that helped us, but we survived.
That's because you were probably walking around the streets having fun.
I was walking around the streets a lot and driving around the streets a lot looking to see what was happening and what was on the agenda. We didn't have the pre-meetings and the pictures but they were wonderful times, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have fond memories of that.
Oh, very fond memories. We had fun, we enjoyed each other, we fought and disagreed, but all left friends.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So are there any other stories that you wanted to add?
Oh, dear. No, you'll have to wait until I go home and then I'll think of another one.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you bringing that back up so that we could learn about the rezoning efforts of 3rd Street and how you marched on City Hall essentially and were able to stop that.
And I bet, John, if you would go back to the City Council archives, it was all either videoed or filmed because I would see it on whatever channel it was afterwards. Mm-hmm. So much of that probably is there.
That would be fun. It would be fun to look at.
Yeah.
You know, along with that, the effort to keep law offices out of German Village, at least to a large extent.
Right.
There was the whole parking issue too, right?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it was not, and also not all the clients that were coming to those offices were exactly the most desirable clients, being as how they were coming right from the juvenile detention and so forth. And parking was a real problem, sure. But no, it was, and if you go down 3rd and you see those law offices, somewhere along the line they got grandfathered in, even though they really had never gotten an approval for a variance. But I don't know how they did it. It was after my time, they are legal now.
So yeah, what happened to the residences that were in name only a residence and primarily an office? What happened in those situations?
They pretty much left them. They are now. Some of those that you see are the very ones that were saying they were home occupations. And home occupation, you know, that's, if they really lived there, that's one thing. But law offices, there's nobody there at night, there's nobody there on the weekend, the parking problem that John points out, the clientele. We didn't feel it was desirable. But I think one of the things that was most impressive was the outpouring of community support of maintaining 3rd Street as a residential street. We had other outpourings, I'm sure, but that's the one that I remember the most anyway. We went to city council a lot.